So this is the first 10 to 11 questions for the personal history of Bobbie Lang. And today is the 2nd of May, 2013. Okay, so we're just going to start. So, what was your full name at birth?
Bobbie Jean Clemens. And when I married for the first time, it was Bobbie Jean Clemens Gross.
Yeah.
And I was married for the second time. It was Bobbie Jean Clemens Gross Lang.
Do you have all of your names, or is it still?
I usually just use the last Lang.
Okay. Why did your parents name you Bobbie Jean?
I was named after an uncle. His name was Robert, but everyone called him Bob.
Mm-hmm.
So they called me Bobbie.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I don't know where the Jean came from, but I was always called Bobbie Jean.
Did you have any nicknames? They just always called you Bobbie
No
Jean?
nickname, just Bobbie Jean.
I didn't have any nicknames either. I always wanted one. But
Bobbie
you can't
Jean.
force those things, right?
No, Bobbie Jean was enough of a name.
Did you like your name?
At one point I didn't, because so many boys were named Bobbie. And so when I was going to school, I wouldn't answer unless they called me Bobbie Jean.
Oh, I like that. I think that's cute. So when and where were you born?
I was born in Fort, Kentucky.
Fort, Kentucky. Is that northern or southern?
I believe that's in the eastern part of Kentucky, in a coal mining district.
Okay.
It's very country.
And what's your birthday?
September 1st, 1942.
42. And did your mom go to the hospital, or she had you at home?
I was born at home.
And you were the baby of how many?
I had 3 sisters, 3 living sisters and 2 living brothers. I had one sister that passed away when she was 5.
What was her name?
Eunice.
I think you remember hearing about Eunice. How did your family come to be there in Kentucky?
My father worked in the coal mines, and they followed the area where coal was being mined, and that was Fort, Kentucky was one of the areas that they needed coal miners, and that's the reason my family went to Kentucky from Tennessee.
From Tennessee, and were you born in? Your other brothers and sisters were born in Tennessee, or they met there and then they moved to Kentucky?
I think 2 of them were born in Tennessee, but the rest of was born in Kentucky, I believe.
So your father and your mother were both originally from Kentucky?
Tennessee.
Or Tennessee, not Kentucky, yeah, Tennessee. And they met there, and then moved. And did you live there? How long did you live there?
In Kentucky, we left Kentucky for Ohio when I was about 10. It was like 1950, I believe it was, that we moved to Ohio.
Where did you move to?
Lucasville, Ohio.
Lucasville?
It was close to where my uncle owned a store.
Mm-hmm.
And so we moved to a house close to him.
Okay. Do you remember what your house was like or different houses you've lived in? Any particular ones?
Well, originally in Kentucky, they had what they called coal mining housing, and they were all very similar. All green.
Like the base.
Yeah, they were all typical, the same style, and painted the same colors, which, from what I can remember, it was dark green.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest impression of the house that I lived in Kentucky.
Yeah.
It was very country.
What kind of features did you have? Electricity and plumbing?
We had electricity, but we did not have, and for a few years we did not have an inside bathroom. My dad did put a shower in the house that we lived in, but we still had an outhouse, which was not a nice place, but
Did a lot of other people have outhouses too?
most people had outhouses there. And when we moved to Ohio, that was the first in-house bathroom we had. And my dad and my oldest brother they put it together.
So Uncle Robbie was telling me you fell into the outhouse. What were you doing? Like, how did that come about?
Well, my mom had grocery stores off and on, and we had a grocery store in Newington, Ohio. And I was about 3-4 years old, and I had watched. Well, we had a modern outhouse. It was one where you had the big square, and then you had this lid that you could lift up like it was a regular toilet, and when you let the lid down, it had the shape of a lid, or like a toilet bowl lid. So if it was a guy going to use the bathroom, he could raise the lid up, right? So I had watched my sister and a couple of her friends had the lid up, and they were walking around the edge. And I'm following. And normally I was very agile, more agile than she. And I slipped. And I fell. Nobody knew it. I was all alone. I was yelling. Well, I hollered, help, help, help. And nobody heard me. But I'm very resourceful. I found my own way out. I climbed out, and when I got out and was on the sidewalk, a neighbor had came across, and she had heard me yelling. Well, she finally came across, and she walked me home. And I can still remember my little green coat with my little pin on it that had to get thrown in the garbage. My mom set me outside in a bathtub and poured water on me. Wouldn't let me go inside. Everything had to get thrown away.
It was going to be gone for a little while.
Why were your sisters walking? It was just like a dare or something?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's going to be gone for a little while because we're going to take that motor up to Wheatley Motor in Norwood. Get it fixed and come back.
Yeah, that was an experience. But we had a grocery store there, and Mom and my oldest brother had off and on 3 or 4 different grocery stores. My father liked to gamble, and sometimes he would get into a card game, and he would lose the grocery store. And then before you know it, he'd get in another game, and we'd win one. So it was up to my mom to run the grocery store, and my dad worked in the coal mines.
What did your mom think about that, losing the grocery store and then getting the grocery store?
She never complained about it.
Really? I would be complaining.
I would have too. But, she just accepted Dad the way he was. And he was a sweet guy. He really was sweet. And I just never remember her complaining about moving around. But when you work in a coal mines like that, you go where the work is. And that's what they did.
And you said when you lived in Kentucky, you guys moved up to Ohio, and you had some family around?
Just the only people we had around was Uncle Bob and Aunt Margaret.
Okay.
And they had a grocery store there. Okay. And they didn't have any children. So I spent a lot of time with them, which they spoiled me.
Parents, siblings?
My dad. Okay. And they were like half brothers. And they did spoil me a lot. I spent a lot of time with them. And, she always made sure she had, my favorite was strawberries. And pork chops. So when I was there, that's what we had for dinner. So they did spoil me a lot. And I went with him to pick up groceries downtown and for this grocery store. And then I went to Tennessee with him like 2 different times. So I was spoiled by them. I was spoiled, really.
Good.
But, you know, he was proud of me because I used good manners and was very particular.
Yeah.
And I was his namesake, so.
Bobbie. So, the next question is about, like, items in your house. Like, do you remember, like, any special things you owned? I remember you told me about a pair of scissors you won in a competition.
Yeah, well, that was when we were in Ohio, and I was, I believe, a junior in high school, and I had made my formal for our dance, and my my home ec teacher sent the pattern in and the material, and
You made your own pattern too?
No,
Oh, no.
it was a pattern. It was
Okay.
it was the pattern company had this little contest, so she had sent my pattern in and the type of material I use and things like that, and I won 3rd place, which I won a pair of scissors with the magnetic tips to it, so if you had straight pins, it would pick them up.
Oh.
And my mom confiscated the scissors for her own,
Oh.
but I did use them.
Yeah.
And then I did wind up getting the scissors from my oldest brother had them.
Okay.
And so they gave them back to me. Then I gave them to your dad for you.
Okay, I'm going to get those from you. I'm like,
Well,
where are my scissors?
They had been laying around where nobody had been taking care of them, so they did need some repair work.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably took care of that or will take care
Will.
of it. Yeah. What did your parents, I guess, think about that? Like, what was their reaction to getting 3rd place? Like,
Oh, my mom was proud of my sewing. You know, I made most of my clothes that I wore
that's really
because I couldn't afford the type of clothes I could make.
Yeah.
And so she was always proud of what I made.
That's cool. I feel like now it's almost more expensive to make your own clothes because the materials are expensive, and then like
Not it really because of the quality.
you do get a better quality, I guess,
Yeah.
if you know how to sew. If I sewed my stuff, it would just
Well,
I just cut a hole in a big sheet. I'm dressed.
Well, you know, you have a pattern that you go by, and it was very rewarding to be able to wear what you made
Yeah.
and know that it was well made.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed doing it
Yeah.
because like I said, I couldn't afford to buy the type of clothes that I made.
Yeah.
And I loved the type of clothes that I made. It was girly clothes.
Yeah.
And now they're getting back to that same style.
Oh.
And I wish I was young so I could wear those clothes
You
again.
can still?
No, they wouldn't look right on an old woman. Well, you know, that it was like one of my favorites was a dress that had like a little square neckline and full skirt. And that's when we wore crinolines, you know, and I loved the
What
the
are
girly.
crinolines?
That
Am
was
I
like
saying it
netting that made your skirts feel fuller
Okay.
and made you feel a little more girly.
Okay.
Yeah, I like little twirly skirts.
Those two.
Well, at one point I was more of a tomboy, but as I got in teenage years, I loved the girly stuff. Still a little bit of tomboy there, but
Yep. I like to wear dresses with shorts under. That way I could like do the flips on the bars and play with the boys, but I could still wear my girl dress.
well, at the time, we didn't think along those lines. I mean, I did do somersaults over little monkey bars and things, not thinking about my underwear, which. But I used to, when we lived in Kentucky, when I was going to grade school, I played a lot with the guys, cowboy Indians.
Yeah.
I jumped rope, hopscotch.
Cool.
Yeah, I was energetic.
No video games?
Oh, no. The closest video we had was playing cowboy and Indians ourselves.
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit about when you were junior in high school and you won the competition. And what high school did you go to? When
I was Stockdale High School. I went to grade school and high school, the same area.
And what were your parents' attitudes about education? pretty strict about you guys
Very
getting-
strict, yeah.
It's
Very
like
strict.
my dad.
Yeah, I mean, you did not miss school, and I never skipped school. I mean, you didn't skip school.
Yeah, I never skipped school either.
And if you had a complaint from a teacher, the teacher was always right.
Oh no.
Oh, yes. If you got in trouble at school, you got in trouble at home.
Too bad that doesn't happen anymore, right?
Well, I didn't get in trouble at school.
Yeah. It was a good incentive, right? The next question is, we're like backtracking now, but what was your earliest childhood memory?
Ooh, that's way back. The earliest is when, it's really strange, we lived in Kentucky, and again, it was in a grocery store. I remember being sat up on top of the counter, and I fell off.
You fall off a lot of things.
That was only 2 times. Only 2 times. I remember that, and it seemed like in my mind's thinking I had a blue dress on, and it's always been my favorite color.
Blue's my favorite color too.
Yeah. I wonder why.
And we've got great blue eyes.
Yeah.
And
Got those from my Bob. But then my next big memory is when my oldest brother came home from the Army. And I remember answering the door, and he's there in his uniform with his duffel bag.
Aw.
He looked so handsome, and he was like,
Which-
I thought he was a giant.
Which brother?
James, or Cliff, we
James.
called him
Cliff.
Cliff. And I remember standing behind him, and he had gotten blistered from sun. And I remember, it sounds terrible, but I remember pulling skin off of his back.
Aww.
I was standing behind him, so I had to have been very little.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I was spoiled. I mean, I was an attention getter.
You were the baby too.
Well, yeah, but I just was.
You have the
in everybody's
personality
face.
that people want to spoil you. You just. You're
And
so
I made sure they
likable.
knew I was there.
Yeah. So we're talking about hopscotch and
Double Dutch,
rope and-
jumping rope, double Dutch rope.
Do you have a favorite toy growing up?
I used to love playing jacks,
Jacks.
and that was. And jumping rope was,
Jumping rope.
yeah, very simple
Yeah.
toys.
No, video games, no Xbox,
no.
Game
At
Boy.
that time, we didn't even have a TV. We didn't have a television until 1950.
Wow. Well, why do you think you like the Jacks so much and the
Just the competition, because you're trying to beat someone else, and be better than they are, and being able to conquer picking all of them up at the same time, just different things like that.
And then Uncle Ron wanted me to ask you this. You bake a lot, and you bake really good stuff. I really like what you make.
Well, I have a cheesecake recipe that I got from my oldest sister, Bonnie. And I've made that every year. Every year I worked at Claremont Nursing Center, I took that in at Christmas.
That was their favorite
And
time of year.
Well, that was one of the first desserts that
Oh,
went.
I bet. And so you said sometimes you can't bake unless you feel inspired. So what inspires you to bake? What's the motivation then for you?
I don't know what my motivation would be. It's when I find out I've made something and it doesn't work out.
Like maybe I just wasn't feeling it that time.
It just wasn't. Well, I guess because somebody had just bugging me to bake, and I really didn't want to.
Yeah.
I probably want to sit and read,
Yeah. I like to do that
and
too.
I didn't really want to bake. And I think wintertime is more of a enticement to bake.
Yeah, because you want warm, yummy things,
Yeah.
and you want to stay inside, so you have lots of.
Yeah, I have a peanut butter cookie recipe that a landlady gave me when Alan was a baby, and I used that for years, and I still have it.
Yeah, we have to get a collection of your recipes to put with things because I want my
Well,
mom's cook.
you have to have the cheesecake recipe because nobody else
Makes it
seems to
better.
want to make it.
Really,
Nobody else really bakes.
I like to bake occasionally, but yeah, I know what you mean. You have to be in the mood for it. home, it's hard to muster up
The want to.
Yeah. You know, you got to be very organized and very methodical, and it takes a lot of organization to get it from point A.
Well, sometimes I get inspired to bake when I know people are coming, and I want to please them with something sweet.
You made me a great chocolate cake.
It is rich.
That was so good.
It is rich.
I had one when I got here, when I first came over, and then I had one before I left. And I went to bed feeling very happy.
Very chocolate. Oh, that recipe's on the back of a Hershey can, and I've used that recipe for years.
When did you find that one?
When I was at home, I started making cakes when I was maybe a sophomore in high school, and I baked.
You're good at the home ec stuff, making clothes and baking. I like that stuff. I want to learn to make clothes and stuff. I need like a basic sewing class.
Well, I didn't inspire to be anything except a mother and housewife.
And why do you?
That's what I always wanted. I wanted my children and be able to make a home and take care of my family. And life didn't choose that path for me. I had to go out and work and still take care of my children. So we still, we survived. We were very close.
More than survived too. You have good kids, and they have kids.
Well, I was very close to my older boys.
Yeah.
We sort of grew up together because I had your dad when I was just barely 18. And then Ron, I was 19.
Yeah.
But I love my boys. They kept me going.
Very motivational.
My boys have been my inspiration.
So, how did you meet your first husband, Emery? Emery, what's his middle name?
Emery Clyde Gross.
Emery Clyde Gross.
I met my oldest brother and his older brother lived in a trailer park here in Milford. And Emery was visiting his family, and I was visiting my family, and our sister-in-laws like to play cards together. So they wanted us to get together. So we did.
He was a friend
and that's history.
And he was a friend of your brother then? Or
No.
No, he wasn't? How did he
my
get
brother
there?
wasn't fond of him.
How did he get there?
Well, his brother and his sister-in-law, he lived with them. He came to visit them from West Virginia.
Oh, okay.
And then I was fresh from Lucasville, and I was going to cosmetology school.
Really?
And then our sister-in-laws liked to play cards together, so they had a card game all set up, which about once a week they'd play cards. So they introduced us and encouraged us to go out.
Yeah. And how long did you guys date? And when do you think you knew you wanted to marry him? And how did he ask you?
Honestly, I don't recall actual proposal.
One day you weren't married, and the next day you were.
It was just, we went to Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and got married by justice of the peace. And
did you elope?
yes.
You elope?
Yes. I don't think my family liked him.
No.
No. And the more they didn't like him, the more
The more you liked him.
Well, I thought I could change him. And I was too young to realize you don't marry someone to change them.
Well, what were you attracted to about him? Like, why did you decide you wanted
At that age, he was so cute.
Yeah. I've seen pictures. He's a cutie.
He looked so much like Elvis Presley. His hair was combed like that. And he was such a sweet, shy person.
Really?
And so I guess I was drawn to the quiet shyness of him.
Like, what kind of dates did he take you on?
Drive-in movies.
And was he, like, did he kind of start flirting with you first, or did you start flirting with him first?
Knowing me, I probably started flirting with him first.
When he felt safe. Oh, she likes me. I can flirt back now.
Yeah, we would go for drives. And at that time, I mean,
You went
in
to
the country.
picture show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we used to go to a lot of drive-ins. I mean, that was the popular
But you don't
thing.
remember any movies you went to. You weren't watching the movie, right?
Actually, that's true. That's true. I almost got in trouble. Well, I did get in trouble because we went to a drive-in and we both fell asleep
Mm-hmm.
and woke up and almost everybody was gone. So I was home kind of late.
Oh.
Yeah, I did get in trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, the more my family didn't like him, the more I felt protective of him,
Yeah.
which is the wrong things
You're
to get married.
protective over people, though. It's a nature thing. You are.
Especially if I feel like it's unfair.
Yeah.
You know, but, I married him for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
You should never marry anybody because you want to change them.
Yeah. But, you know, you see good in people, and sometimes it doesn't develop in the way you were hoping, you know.
Well, I didn't realize that he drank, and that's not something I wanted in my life.
Yeah.
But I thought I could change that.
Yeah. How long did you date before?
Yeah, less than a year.
And
Wasn't very
how
long.
did you decide to elope? Like, you guys were just like, well, my family doesn't like this, and so don't we want to get married? And you,
Pretty well.
he come to pick you up, or you just left one day, or you left at night, or
No, we planned it.
you planned it?
My sister-in-law's niece went with us.
Mm-hmm.
She was our witness.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we planned it.
Yeah. How
I
did you
don't
feel
remember
when
how
you
it
were
come about.
planning it? Were you excited and like
Scared.
scared?
Like, what have I done?
Did you ever kind of have second thoughts and think, oh, maybe we shouldn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. But then again, if I hadn't have married him, I wouldn't have had your dad and Ron. So.
And I wouldn't be here.
That's right.
At least not in this form.
Not
the
in the
form I
same
am
form,
now.
right.
Exactly.
And I wouldn't have had a great older son. I did a good job on him.
Oh, yeah.
I like him.
He's a good one.
And you know, you don't have to like your kids.
No, you don't, but he's a good one.
I like him.
I like him, too.
It's a good thing I love him, but it's unusual to be able to like
Mm-hmm.
your child.
Yeah.
And you don't always have to like your children.
They need love, though. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was such a sweetheart. He was such a sweet baby. He loved everybody.
How did you find out you were pregnant with my dad?
Well, I was about 2 or 3 months pregnant before it really dawned on me, because I really was a sheltered child.
Yeah.
Even though I grew up in the country, I was really sheltered, and I didn't realize
No
I
birth
was pregnant.
control or anything like that?
Not then.
No? No. Just. And what year did you get married? Sometime in the 50s or
No, it was
60s?
60
Yeah, because Dad was 61. He was born in 61.
July.
Yeah.
So it would have been around the end of 60. Yeah.
What did you think when you were pregnant? Were you scared or?
Yeah. Yeah. It was scary, but well, I'd never been around anybody that was pregnant.
Really? No.
Well, Peggy, my oldest sister.
Uh-huh.
But I really didn't dawn on me what all she'd gone through when she
Yeah,
had
it's
her
kind of
first
not
son.
talked about. It's kind of like, even still, it's
Right.
just like, oh, and then she had a baby.
Yeah.
Like, it was no big deal.
No, I mean,
yeah.
it didn't.
It's like,
It didn't
it's
really
pretty,
dawn
it's
on me.
pretty important, traumatic, emotional, and we
No,
just treat
but-
it like it's just.
Well, he wasn't the first nephew, but he was the one I was close to because I was around him so much, and I babysat a lot with him.
Mm-hmm. Your older sister Peggy's son?
Mm-hmm.
What was his name?
Spence.
Spence.
He's a minister now.
Oh.
Yeah. And he is a sweetheart. But it was like they would leave him with me, and before they come back home, we would both be asleep.
Yeah. Did you, when you had my dad, did you want to have children? Or were you
Yeah.
excited? Yeah, you did?
Yeah,
Were you planning on having children? You just, there was no plan, it just...
No plan.
When they come, because there's no birth control, so it's not like now where we talk about, like, when we want to have babies, we stop taking birth control.
Well, it's like, when I was a teenager and growing into an adult, they didn't have abortion and birth control and things like that. It was just...
baby.
Yeah. Or you gave it up for adoption or whatever, It was just the times.
Yeah. Did you go to a hospital when you had hospital? What was it like? Like, what did they do?
Well, it was very different than what they are now because fathers didn't come into the delivery room and stuff. I was all alone in this big room.
Oh, no, like nobody from your family came?
No. It was just he and I. Well, his sister-in-law was there, but they didn't come into your delivery room. You were in a room by yourself. A nurse
scary.
checking on you. Yeah. Especially when you really didn't realize what all was going on.
Did they give you any medications or anything? What kind of
it
things
was,
did they give you?
I don't know what they call it, like a twilight sleep.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry, Grandma. I learned about all this stuff, and, like, I just don't, it doesn't register in my mind that, like, people actually, that happened in the time. So it's like a horror form or like a
it was like,
thing?
it's like, you go to sleep gradually.
Mm-hmm.
You're,
I'll be back in a little while.
you don't realize that you're going to go out. They have you like counting from 100 and back,
So you are asleep, but
It
then
puts
how
you
do you have a baby when you're knocked out? You don't
You're
remember?
already,
Yeah.
no, because that was the thing. You don't remember having your baby.
Uh-huh.
And your body is going into the delivery process anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're just not helping it along.
Or are you
Like they do
sleeping,
now.
or are you just not aware of what's going on?
Both. I mean, you're
Yeah.
out, period.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on.
Uh-huh.
You don't know when the baby comes.
Yeah, I remember watching like a documentary, and they were talking about twilight sleep and how they weren't really. I mean, like the people were still in pain. They were just so like out of it, they don't remember.
You don't know it,
and
yeah.
you're still going through it, but now you're not in your right mind when your body's trying to do this really complicated
And you don't remember
process.
it. You do not remember any of it.
So when do they give you? When do they? You start going into labor, and as soon as you go in the hospital, they do it, or when you start
When you
having
go
to
into the
push, or-
delivery room.
Okay, then you just.
They wait until you're a certain centimeters, and then they take you into the delivery room, and then they put you to sleep.
And what was that like for you? Is that just normal? Because you felt
At
like
that time,
just
it was a normal thing. I mean, that's the way your babies were born.
But how did it make you feel like afterwards? And
Relieved.
You're like, no,
I
I'm not
got my
pregnant anymore.
baby.
I got my baby. Yeah, I think that's the thing too. It's like, no matter how traumatic like birth was or how like weird it was,
You
people are
forget
just
it.
happy because they have their baby.
Well, funny thing is, before Alan was born, I had a dream that I had a little boy, and he was when he was born, he had these blue corduroy little coveralls on and a white T-shirt and little white shoes. And his first Christmas, my brother's wife bought him the blue corduroy
So you had
pants
a
and
dream
the
about him before
T-shirt.
he was born. That's so sweet.
And he was a boy. And he was the only one I dreamed about having. So.
And you had 3 other boys after that.
Yeah.
And
So
no
dreams do
girls?
come true. No girls.
I'm your first girl.
Yeah.
Did you want to have girls?
Yes. After I had Alan, everyone was supposed to have been a girl.
Oh, yeah, one boy and all the rest girls, right?
Well, at least one girl.
What was Dad's name going to be if he was a girl? Or did you just, you were certain
No,
he was
there
going to
was
be a boy?
there was no question it was going to be a boy.
What about Uncle Ronnie? If he was a girl,
He was
his name
supposed to have been a
gonna be-
girl, and
Well, he has long hair, right? So. He tries to live up to your expectations, right?
if he had been a girl, Emery probably would have named him. I think he liked the name of Sharon,
Sharon.
but apparently he wasn't a girl. So,
Ronnie.
and then I thought when I was pregnant with Rob, I thought maybe this time it'll be a girl. And if it was, I was going to name her Robin Nicole.
Rob.
And then he turned out to be Robert Nicholas. And then when I was pregnant with Matt, maybe he would be a girl. No, he was going to be a Melinda. But no,
At least
he
he
turned
has
out
the
to be a
imp still.
Matthew Adam. So I'm glad I had boys. I mean, I love boys. And I was glad I had granddaughters.
Yeah.
Some of the things that I saw other people go through with their daughters, and at the points where they grew where they weren't close, oh, I would hated that. So my boys, we were always pretty close. So, I didn't have the girly influence. It's like it was hard for me to talk to girls.
Yeah.
And because I was so used to how boys were.
Yeah. Lots of boys.
But I was glad I had boys. Somebody told me that by me having 4 boys, I had an automatic entrance into heaven. I said, boy, I can take care of that.
You got 4 tickets in, right? And so, like, what was, especially, like, early married life for you? Was it happy and good, or, like, there wasn't, like, a good period before it was bad, or it was just kind of...
Well, of course, a beginning, it was a little nostalgia there, but, it was sweet.
Yeah.
But gradually, as you're married longer, you realize things aren't going to change. You're not going to change this person. And you're not the answer to his problems.
No.
But, we tried to stay with it as long as I could.
What is maybe your fondest memory of your first husband, Henry?
Well, it was just how sweet he was. He did have a sweet personality. But he just got mean when he'd get drunk.
That's something I admire about you, like all that you guys went through together, and you still remember his good qualities, and you never have, I admire that you never have anything mean or bad to say about him, whereas most people, I think, probably would.
Well, at the time, I was very hurt.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Some of the things he did. But he did have a sweet personality. You remember the good things. There's no sense in dwelling on all the bad.
Yeah.
Because there is some sweet times, And he gave me such cute little boys. So
Yeah.
hadn't been for him, I wouldn't have my 2 boys.
How many years were you married before you...
Total of about 5 years.
So when you left and you took my dad and Uncle Ronnie, were you scared he was going to come after you, or...
Yeah, I was a little afraid, but he had trouble keeping a job because of his drinking and stuff. And our gas and electric was turned off in the wintertime. And I did tell him that if it was, I had a notice that it would be turned off again, we would leave. And we got another notice. So I left.
Did you just not think you were serious about that, or just
maybe
couldn't
not,
get
or
past
just-
the addiction?
That's probably it. And plus, he was sort of a womanizer.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
How'd
And
you...
so that was more important than his family. But he did love his boys. He did love his boys. and from my understanding, never, he always loved me too, but he just
Had
couldn't
problems.
change who he was.
Yeah, it's an addiction that you can't really do it for anybody but yourself, no
And
matter
I
how much you
didn't-
love people.
No, I didn't want my boys to grow up thinking this was the way to be a man.
Yeah.
And I thought I could do better by not having that around them.
Yeah, not having that influence. I'm very grateful that you did that, because that's, I mean, women didn't do that at that time. Not very often. I mean,
But they
it did
stayed with
happen,
it.
but they'd stay.
They stayed and thought, yeah, everything will be better tomorrow. It's,
When you were homemaker, right? You were the mom. You stayed home, and you didn't have a job when you left.
I
and-
babysat,
Yeah,
things like that.
and that's But I guess he wasn't making any money because he was drunk. So
Well,
it
he was
wasn't
drink.
like
He
you
was
were being-
sometimes he was working, but he would drink his money up, so there wasn't a lot of money to pay bills with.
Do you think there's something in his life that kind of triggered that? Was he abused as a kid, or is his father alcoholic? Or
His father was an alcoholic at one point, so I do think it's part of his genetic. Yeah, but his father did quit drinking when Emery was young,
Yeah.
so
That
it wasn't
seems-
all of his life,
His drinking seems weird to me because normally, when people want to drink that much, they want to forget something or they want to get out of themselves.
Well, the area where he was born and grew up, it was out in the country in a coal mining area.
Not
in
much
in
else
West
to do.
Virginia.
That was
Right.
your entertainment.
That was the thing they did, and of course, it was easy for them to get some type of alcohol. And he was the baby of the family, so his mother adored him.
Yeah.
So whatever
Spoiled.
she needed to do to give him spending money, she did, and he really didn't have to work for it. So he was, I guess, in a way, he was spoiled. He was a poor boy, but he was spoiled.
Did that matter to you? I guess obviously it didn't because you married him anyway. But who did you think you were going to marry? When you were growing up,
Oh, well, I had a cousin that he was a deacon in church, and I had spent a summer with him and his daughter and his wife, and I absolutely adored him. I just thought he was a perfect man, and I told him I wanted to marry someone like him.
And who is
Art Deathridge.
Deathridge, and how
They
was
was
he
related. They it was mom's half sister's son,
Okay.
and they were very sweet people, very sweet, and I just adored him. He was the qualities I would have wanted in a man, but met Emery, and here's this Elvis Presley lookalike, and handsome, and so quiet and shy, and
Yeah, I think you had the goodness in him.
and I thought I could change.
I think you're
what was
sensitive
wrong.
to people's goodness, though, too. And you
Well-
feel for people even though they do things that are stupid and
Well, you think
wrong.
you can change,
Yeah.
and I was too young to realize that doesn't happen. It's the wrong reason to marry anybody.
Was there anybody else that you dated around the time that you thought maybe you could have married, or anybody else?
I
wanted
had
to marry you
dated
before?
a couple of nice guys, but they just weren't as shy and cute as Emery was.
I think maybe we have the same thing going, because Richard was kind of shy,
And
when I
making-
met him, and kind of not like a bad boy,
No.
but kind of edgy,
Yeah.
But he had that sweet personality.
Mhm.
He had that sweet personality inside.
And he had a loving heart. It's just probably the way he grew up and the area he grew up influenced.
Well, and
what he
culture
did.
at that time was, you don't have to listen to your wife,
No.
she has to listen to you, so.
No. Well, he was, what I said, he was more of a womanizer, but it was when he was drinking and stuff, too, so it was all mixed up.
Yeah. How do you think, just in general, how do you think things have changed, our attitudes towards marriage and women's issues and things like that. What do you think has been the biggest change since you were, younger and newly married?
Well, now I think that people, when they marry, they don't seem to want to work at the marriage as much.
It's easier to just...
It's just easier to get a divorce and don't want to really work on it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we marry for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
What is it? You're lusting after a person more so, and then you think this is true love,
Mm-hmm.
and you forget you want a friend too.
Yeah.
And I think women stayed with marriage years ago longer.
Because they had less opportunities for things outside of it, or...
Well, there
It
was
was the
less
cultural
work
norm.
opportunities for women,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't make as much money if they could work,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just not a good times for women, they're more progressive now. There are more opportunities for women.
How do you think things will continue to progress in that area? Because, I feel like definitely come a very long way, but there's still lots of, women are still, it's still hard for women to get jobs. It's still hard for, there's still a lot of, it's like an undercurrent of sexism, where people are sexist and they don't realize they are. It's just their attitudes that they've just had throughout their lives, and they would never say anything negative about women, but their natural assumptions are...
Well, their natural
yeah.
assumptions is they pay women less than they would a man for the same job,
Yeah.
even though a woman may be better suited for that job.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they think the woman is going to be a second earner of the family. The husband is
So they
making
don't
the
need as
main...
much.
Right.
And it shouldn't
Shouldn't be that way, because it isn't that way.
Yeah. It isn't.
Women need to be a breadwinner also.
Yeah, and I kind of think, as long as two people can be independent, like there are means in society to be independent, I think that encourages, hey, we don't have to be together. We choose to be together. I don't have to stay with you because I need you financially. And
it takes two people to want to make it work.
Yeah.
And it does take work.
Yeah.
You're not going to get married and everything is going to be so wonderful every day.
No.
You're going to have difficulties and personality clashes. It just depends on how much you care about that person.
Yeah.
And what you're willing to do to stay together.
It's true.
Oh, I'm very opinionated, aren't I?
Yes, but I think you have good opinions.
I like my opinions.
So how long, you were married to Emery for 5 years, and then you,
I was divorced from him for about 4 or 5 years before I met Nick.
and you liked Nick because he was nice to your children?
Yes.
I remember Dad telling me he was very nice. So.
He was very caring. At that time I met Nick, Alan had like a lazy eye, and he had to wear a patch on one eye to strengthen the other eye up.
Mm-hmm.
And of course it made Alan feel bad. So Nick took him on the bus with him, and Alan felt so special. Because I didn't date just anybody and bring them around my children, because I didn't want them to care about somebody and then, not be good.
Yeah.
So I was very careful about who I had around them. And so he made me think an awful lot of him. And plus, at that time, one of my neighbor's children had chicken pox, and she asked me to sit with her children while she went to get some baby aspirin. And I thought I'd had chicken pox, only I hadn't.
Oh.
And I got the chicken pox. And it made me feel...
Worse when you're an adult, right?
Oh, it's horrible. And Nick came in, and he had never had chicken pox either. But he came in, did my laundry, did grocery shopping, where my family wouldn't come in and do anything for me.
Aww, that's sweet of him. Where did you meet him? Like, how did you...
I was living at Eastwood Village, and I was working at part-time at Kmart, and I was working at Barker Greeting Cards.
Who's Barker?
It was a greeting card company.
Greeting card, oh, okay.
Yeah. And I didn't drive, so I was having to take a cab to and from Kmart. And Nick was one that come to pick me up.
Oh. So he started with that, and then
Yeah. And I made the remark about, I wish I could have a cab to, automatically come and pick me up where I wouldn't have to call him.
Yeah.
And he said, I can do that.
Aww.
So I thought he was going to come in the cab and pick me up.
That's sweet.
So that started. But I was working extra to make sure that Al and Ron had a good Christmas. And what that got me was having to buy a new refrigerator. Because while I was at work, they broke the refrigerator door handle. So I had to buy a new refrigerator. And we had I've had to leave them with some babysitters that I should never have left them with. But
Yeah, definitely not the refrigerator door handle, right?
yeah, but we sort of grew up together.
Yeah.
I was still
Felt really
young.
connected with them and attached
Yeah.
to them.
Still young, but it was hard because that's the reason I didn't want my grandchildren to have children before they were able to provide for them independently.
Yeah.
Because I knew how bad it is if you're alone and you're having to try to make enough money to pay your rent and bills, and then have to worry about keeping your job. And by the time you get through all that stress, you're too tired to really deal with children the way you should.
Yeah.
And I was just lucky the way Al turned out. He was such a good-hearted person.
My dad has a good heart. That's because his mom has a good heart.
I'm proud of him, really proud of him. I still think he'd be a good mentor for a young boy.
He has mentored a few people in our neighborhood. There's a boy lived across the street and was always getting in trouble, and ended up having to go to a work camp because he was getting in trouble. And when he came back, he wanted to change things, and so he worked for my dad, and he did the lawn mowing and stuff. And he did get a girl pregnant, and he came to him and said, "I got a girl pregnant," and my dad said, "Well, you need to be the father, and you've got to take care of your girlfriend. She's the mother of your kid now. She's an important person. You can't treat her poorly." He came back later, and really thanked him, and he was a nice.
Well, I was talking to...
I was jealous. I was like, he's my dad!
Not
He's
yours.
mentoring me! I was not very sharing with my dad.
One of my nieces was having some problems with her boyfriend. And I was trying to talk to her, and cheer her on. And I said, I sort of wish I had a little bit of my son Alan's way of talking to people. Because he has a way of having you to answer your own problem.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what would you do in that? I mean, how do you take care of this?
He didn't just tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes he just told me.
In a roundabout way.
I was a stubborn kid. Well, Grandma, I think we can turn this off for now, and we'll do some more questions later. But we'll keep talking. But so this is the end of questions 1 through 11, and various other questions that just came up in the spur of the moment. And it's still the 2nd of May, 2013, and we're going to turn this off for a little while.